I think again, just kind of loosely following, and I'm sorry I didn't do any research, but I wanted it to be natural. You and I haven't caught up. You and I ran into each other 6 years ago. I was in Cleveland when we ran
Yep.
into each other at
Yep.
that conference,
NSCA.
at the
Yep.
NSCA
Carletto and I
conference.
were just talking about that because I ran into him at that conference, and I was like,
Same
"This last
thing. Yeah, I
time I didn't
remember
see
you
either of
guys
you."
saw Daryl. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So and that was the last time we really had a chance to catch up. Were you in the Netherlands
Yeah.
for a bit? And
I had just left. So after the Rio Olympics, I took a job with the Netherlands because I had I had a friend that became their head coach, and I was like,
mm,
oh my gosh, I get to work for a buddy. And I've been in China for 6.5 years at that point, and or 6 years, and so I was thinking, oh my gosh, this would be awesome to be able to live in the Netherlands with my buddy as a head coach.
yeah.
And sure enough, it was absolutely amazing. It was too amazing. But I promised,
Yeah.
like when I left the Chinese team, I promised the head coach it'll just be for a year to help this guy get systems operations going. I was the only hire he could make, so he
Yeah.
was adopting a Dutch staff, and so went over there, and it was the best summer of work of my career. I mean, we didn't win, but it was the most fun I'd had coaching, and it was. I forgot how much fun it is to coach, being able to speak English and make jokes with people, like
And they get it.
jokes
Yeah.
that don't involve me, like feigning a kick to the nuts, like slapstick humor, like which I'm a
Yeah.
freaking expert in China. But so I loved my year in the Netherlands, but I promised the Chinese team I'd come back. So after 2017 in the Netherlands, I go back to China in 2018, and then after that, I said, I got to go back to the Netherlands in 2019, and then my coaching friend gets
Can't.
laid
Yeah.
off. So I then I took a job in Germany. So at that point, the German coach told me, if you're ever available, we would love to have you on Team Germany. And so I
That's what
jumped to
you did.
Germany, been there and that's where I am for this Olympic quad.
Where in the Netherlands were you?
So it's called Papendal, and it's 45 minutes away from Amsterdam.
Nice.
It's
Dude, I
yeah,
went.
and not even 45. It's probably 30 minutes away from Amsterdam. It is the Olympic Training Center in Holland is gorgeous, state of the art. They do something really well, which is instead of having one massive weight room, which is what Germany and China have, they
Mhm.
have lots of little weight rooms
Like
where
pods.
it's like every one of the little weight rooms has 5, 6 racks and Kaiser triple trainers and Kaiser squat and full dumbbells, and they have this just everything you need,
Yeah.
and you never have to share it with another team. It's wonderful because
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to have control over everything. I want a weight room that I can have all these things going on, and it looks like chaos, but I have overthought the symphony and flow of this weight room workout, and I like to have
Yeah.
everything at my disposal. I can't stand walking into a weight room and be like, oh, gymnastics is on the triple trainer. I got to throw out 2 exercises and try something else.
Right.
Oh, anyway.
Dude, my junior year of college, I went to the University of Amsterdam. And so like the Netherlands has a
Ah,
really special place in my heart. And so
oh
like
yeah.
and I feel like people of course have their I would call them misconceptions, although not entirely inaccurate about like Amsterdam and the Netherlands, but
Right.
no one really knows about the Netherlands. Like it's like this hidden gem of like
Oh,
high performing, forward thinking, super progressive, like definitely like on the cutting edge, like like
oh,
incredible country that only like is associated with like the red light district and coffee shops, which kind of
oh,
annoys
no,
me.
no.
So,
Oh, the training ages, if we're talking weight room, the training age over there is high. These girls
yep.
come in like just technique is absolutely bang on. And it's the place that where Franz Bosch comes from, among other like,
Right.
right. Like
Yeah.
they are innovators. So you see a
Right.
ton of stuff over there that you're like, oh my God, like Aquabags, like, oh my God, we have sandbags back in the United States. And you guys have like, you're moving at speed with resistance that is you like the science that they how much water you put into an aqua bag, not heavier the better, like they are.
Yeah.
So like, let's get out of our head that we need to progress from heavier to heavier. You go to some of these Bosch disciples, they're like, we go lighter and lighter to get faster and faster to game speed, nearer and nearer to game speed. Like that's the way you progress. Is they're like mind blown, right? And I'm watching the junior track coach, and I'm like, oh wow, like I have so much to learn. So innovation, all of that. But like what you're talking about with preconceptions and misconceptions, like I'd ask the girls on my team, a very tiny percentage of my Dutch girls team has ever tried marijuana, right? Where they're known for it. Like none of them are sexual deviants. All of them speak 4 languages. Like they are so like the
Yep.
Dutch in general have figured out a way to make money from the rest of the world. We're
That's
going to
it.
be the ones that have the port that everyone needs. We're going to speak every one of their languages. We're
Yes.
going to make the trains run on time, and we are going to be the place everyone wants to work. But you have to like we're going to be taking money from everybody.
Interesting. I want to follow up because a friend of mine, actually a couple of days ago, we're talking about like the FV curve, for lack of a way of putting
Mm-hmm.
it, and like you just said, like they figured out like overload is actually in the opposite direction, right, towards speed, whereas here, like overload is like in the direction towards like things get heavier and heavier, and like
Yep.
why haven't we figured this out yet? That
Yeah.
like this is the idea. Um, why haven't we figured it out yet?
I, I I just met with so I did recently did a post on Instagram about this, and it led to a conversation that I had 3 days ago with the head of science over at do you know Exogen Lilla? So
No.
Exogen is the wearable resistance, right? And so when I was over in China, there was a speed coach named Randy Huntington, and he was really
Mhm.
into it. And Randy is a next level genius of
Yep.
old school, just genius when it comes to speed. And what he will say is that I don't know how many times I went to Randy and I said, "Listen, I love this for my jumpers, like say K box," and he'd be like, "I know what you feel like it does. I know they feel their calves. It's just too slow, Rhett. It's too
Too
slow.
slow. Yeah.
Like it's too slow. Won't transfer. Body doesn't recognize it. Like, yeah, I know it feels like you're working it. Not you're not working in the right way. And so he is also like Exogen just gives you like calf sleeves that feel like a sock, and then you can put just you know just 50 grams on that. You can just put it on just little grams at a time
Yeah.
and still maintain your so you're getting resistance at the speed of play. And so it becomes something where in our team, my speed, like my defensive specialist on my volleyball team, will wear calf sleeves and with an imperceptible amount of weight in the beginning in the first day of practice that you can take the weights off because they're like Velcro on really strongly, and
Mhm.
then they're teardrop shaped, so you can move the weights from anterior to posterior if you wanted to
Oh,
get more
get out of
hamstring
here.
activation, more hamstring stimulus.
Yeah.
But anterior for more hip flexor, you can then move them distally to, of course, the load the lever a little bit more and differently, and then you go from 50 milligrams to 100 milligrams to 150 to 2, and there's a ton of different sizes of these things. But the theory being that you strip them off for games, but throughout the season you are practicing with more and more
Load
weight that
on.
never slows you down and doesn't affect your gameplay one bit.
Right.
And that you're wearing your resistance every single day at practice. And I really do think, and he's like, it's the same principle, by the way, Dennis. You could also, start heavy and go light, but this is really, um, I do think it's kind of next level that we are going to be spending. I'm going to be personally spending a lot more time thinking about getting resistance done at game speed. And that's
Yeah.
what like the light water bags allow you to do some movements that what Franz Bosch would say is that yeah, when you slow the exercise down too much, it just your body stops recognizing it. A squat is a jump if it does
Yeah.
too much. So and then he's going to be his pendulum is going to be swung one way, and he
For
needs to
sure.
sell aqua bags. But I think there is room in everybody's program for this. I think there's something there.
And I would imagine I think we're all geeks. I love like technology. How much technology are you looking to like incorporate in the stuff that you're doing? Especially, I don't want to say like especially, you're working with people that are trying to get ready for the Olympics. How much experimentation and play and
Yeah.
freedom do you feel like you have knowing what you're dealing with?
Right. So when you're with a team like Germany that is kind of an underdog looking to upset some teams, you can take more risks, and we
For
do,
sure.
and we experiment with them a little bit more. But something like I don't feel like it's a risk at all. If we're talking tech, is not velcroed on weights to a. It's not tech, but it is an
Yeah.
innovative kind of new concept,
Yeah.
and and so the way I see it is that doesn't seem risky at all to me, and so I
Right.
don't. I've not taken a jump into almost anything that seems risky. And since like incorporating K boxes into a lot, like I invested in K boxes about 8 years ago because I really, really liked what they did for eccentric overload and being able to hopefully help us absorb forces. We do a lot of landing. So I love the idea of at least early in the season being able to do that. And that was a little bit risky for me because, of course, we're talking about eccentrics and like, all right, well, this is the stuff that makes people sore as hell. So,
shit, yeah.
you know, I could ruffle some feathers and that could be tough. You know, they're uncomfortable as hell. You know, same thing for like BFR. I don't know that it's risky, but it is so uncomfortable to do well that it's also, you know, it you know, for people that don't know, like it's a leap of faith that your athletes will take the first time you do this with them. It's like
that shit is not fun.
Like no, it's not fun. It doesn't feel like it's right. And like, yeah, trust me. And but that's about it. Like when I invest in tech, like it's usually I'm attracted to tech that gives me feedback that can help me gamify exercises. So I've always been a velocity based guy because I think with velocity based training we do a healthy amount of that, partly because of my unique situation. Because Dennis, I get athletes just 2 weeks before our first major tournament, and so I don't have time for a big off-season strength phase or hypertrophy phase, anything like that. Like it is really just how can we get some adaptations and some strength really quickly and go. And not only do I believe that velocity-based training does it really well, but I also love the fact that the girls compete like hell in it, where in a way that they never did when they were like, haha, I just got 115 kilos on the squat and you just got 100. Like none of them ever got excited about that big gnarly lift.
Yeah.
And it could be my group, but oh my God, when you're the only girl on the team that can squat 70 kilos at 1.2 meters per second, like you can squat jump that or whatever it is, like that's like there's celebrations, there's hooting and hollering. And if I can gamify it better by putting her on a team with the girl that sucks the worst in this exercise, and that team wins, and that girl, you get two people cheering for each other, it's just a bonus. And so when it comes to like what girls are looking at in my weight room, iPad wise, almost all of it is to spark their competitive nature and to make them give me the intensity and create the weight room culture that I want. More so than the data it's giving me that I get to look at, which of course I look at. I make sure that our jumps are trending in the right direction. And that's why we have a jump mat at every single lift. Like every single lift, I put a jump mat with some sort of resistance, a 10-pound bar, a 10-kilo bar, a 15-kilo bar, 5 kilos, whatever it is, something up to 70 kilos, up to 80 kilos. And we'll be jumping as but it's always going to be a competition. We're always from set one I'm going to be getting 5 sets of, I have to be the best. Like all this goes into my average at the end of the day. So I don't have warm-up sets. I have light sets. I have warm-up sets because my light sets, you better be jumping through the roof because you're recording it and it's going into your average.
I love it.
That kind of tech I am really attracted to because it is really increased the efficiency of my weight room as well as the culture, as well as being able to make lightweights do great work, which doesn't add to so many iced knees and low back problems. So I'm ranting right now because I know you like this shit, but
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it's.
You and I have talked.
Keep going. Yeah,
you and I know you and I have talked about like hypertrophy and like how we can get as much as I can out of athletes that don't necessarily. I mean, mass specific force, great, but I don't want to make them a ton heavier. I don't need them going through a hypertrophy phase. If I can get the verticals out of them without doing it, if I can get a lot with lighter weights, I'm going to do it and not big volumes.
Kind of got goosebumps too, by the way, because what I've always is the incorrect word to use. Belief is the word that I'm going to use. And I've always seen the weights as a way to create belief. And I love where tech is gone because the feedback helps feed belief. And like you're saying, you're creating a culture of competition and belief and the feedback. So like, no, man, I don't fucking need the belief to only come from you crushing yourself. I just need the belief to happen, and for the culture to be weird. Ted Lasso, you mentioned him, but like it's true though. Like if I can create a culture where everything that we're utilizing reinforces this belief that you're getting better, that you are comfortable with competition, that you will like, then that is what we're after, right? Like, isn't this what we're
I
trying
know.
to do?
I
And
know.
especially in your environment where like we're talking about gold medals, like fuck it, man. Like we need to make sure that everything continues to foster this level of confidence. And yeah, you're right. I need to see that, yeah, the physiological adaptations are happening too, but that's going to come a lot faster if we're getting this happening,
Yeah.
right? So I love what you're
Yep.
saying, dude.
I honestly believe that like I could program poorly and still get a lot out of my athletes if they are genuinely trying very hard with everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
Like the just the total intensity that we're able to get through gamifying certain lifts through the technology. Like I always I count my iPad as like my assistant coach. Like when there's a jump mat under that bar, I don't have to ask anyone to please give me more effort.
Yeah,
Like I don't have to sit
right.
at
Yeah.
that place and ask them to please try harder.
Right.
Like how infuriating it is to do box jumps and see someone clearly jumping at 90% when a plyometric needs to be at 100%. Like they are doing
Yeah.
just enough to clear the box.
Right.
And I don't have the box to get them up, whatever. That's annoying and frustrating. When it's a jump mat underneath, it is girls. They are cheating the crap out of it as much as they can. They do pikes in the air. They try to land in a squat. They are
Right.
screaming at each other. It is wonderful. I love
Right.
every bit of it because that's the culture I want. Like they're going to do everything they can to get that lift with a bigger jump underneath. And then, Dennis, I'll go on another one.
Yeah.
So I was just at this conference, and there are vendors in the back that are athlete management systems and stuff like that. And I for a year brought one of those to the Netherlands, where
Mm.
instead of being on my laptop with the Excel sheet with everybody in one place, everybody had their own. So they would all go to
Right.
their own tab on the one of the things, and they would fill in their stuff, and it was gorgeous, and all that was great. And the competition went away.
For
Like
sure.
I lost
Instantly.
it all.
Yeah.
And everybody was in a silo. Everybody's
Exactly.
like having your own little sheet walking
Yeah.
around. Like there's nothing I love. When the girls do their jumps, they rack the bar and they run over to the laptop to put it in to see how it changed it and how they compete, how they're compared to the other girls at their position on the team. Like
Yeah.
they want to be the most impressive in everything to the girls they're fighting for playing time against. And
Yeah.
having girls huddled over my computer, screaming when the results come in and shouting across the weight room, I just put it in, you need to get whatever it is. You need to get 28-inch vertical on this jump and we win. Whatever. Like
Yeah.
all that goes away when everybody is kind of off in their own, huddled over their piece of paper with 14 pens that I have to then clean up in the weight room.
Yeah. Um there's I don't know if this was true. And you and I didn't work in the same facility. But my career at Exos was largely coaching, for lack of a better word, alpha males, combat athletes. And I don't think it was intentional, but it's something that I'm very aware of. I did not coach many females, if at all.
You had a
And
reputation. You had a reputation as knowing strength and power better than anybody. Like if you needed to just create a human that could move humans, you went to Dennis. Like everyone knows that.
which
That's
is
your reputation.
which is funny to hear you. I don't want to say it's funny to hear you say, Rhett, but like I've said that to people that I speak to far more often than I speak to you. And they're like, yeah, of course, you were the strength guy. And I was like, yeah, I kind of know that I developed that reputation for myself, but I didn't know like how far reaching it went. And like like it's gone pretty far. Like,
Oh yeah.
and I was telling, I forgot who I was talking to. I was like, it was cool that I had that reputation, but I don't want it anymore. And we're going down a different area. I think what I wanted to get at though was coaching females.
Mm-hmm.
Is it different? How different is it? Because I don't want to say you've created a niche for yourself, but you coach females. It sounds like
I've stumbled
so.
into it. I mean, like in
Yeah.
China, I was with all sports, and then I got with the Chinese women's volleyball team, and that went so well that I think burrowed a pigeonhole for myself. And now,
do you like it or no? And I guess that's my question.
I do. I absolutely do. Like, right now with the next quad coming up, I'm, not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm entertaining other genders.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, I do seem to connect really well with female athletes. I don't see a huge difference. I mean, I grew up just like you. Well, no, you said you're mostly with men, but I actually had a 50-50 split of female and male all my life. And whereas, there's big differences. The music in the weight room, big difference.
Right?
Like, I'm gonna if I take a job with a men's team, I'm gonna have to get earplugs. Like, I actually don't mind the women's music.
Yeah.
Like, especially if I take it in Europe, it's all just EDM and just like, if I'm with the men's German team, you better like Kraftwerk, and like it's hardcore. Anyway, so you have that, and certainly there is they are so pairing them in teams makes them much more competitive than individually competitive. Whereas I think guys, I could very easily just be like, all right, it's the cock of the walk here. Let's go. And I could keep them as individuals, just vary the different training stimulus. And every day we're going to do a different type of squat jump. And that'll be enough to erase last week's leaderboard and make it fresh and new.
Right.
I think I know that training females, it's when they're in a group, in a small team, it stops being quite so personal, and they can. They do not like to gloat about themselves in the way that men love to peacock.
Yeah,
and that's a horrible generalization, of course, but that would be something that I would think I could say with some, in my experience, with some certainty, that they're able to compete really, really aggressively when they are part of something as opposed to an individual.
I think most people, I hate the generalization too.
You asked the question, Dennis.
The difference between the sexes in training them, and I think when we're thinking about like the actual training element, and I think, and part of this is also for like younger coaches. Do I train males different from females? And a lot of what we're talking about, Rhett, is like the psychology of it, right? Which is what I like. But how much stock do you put into like the actual physiology? Like, is it over exaggerating that there is a difference, that we have to like can't make all of these considerations, or not? Like, how much are you like, I'm worried about how different my programming needs to be because this is a woman?
Not one bit. Honestly, I'm trying to think if I can think of a single example where I've changed programming. Like, I'm more interested in making sure the girls know that it's not like I would hold an exercise back because I only feel comfortable doing it with men because it's too intense or something. I mean, if you work in China, there's one difference, is that you'll know that no girls will be lifting anywhere around their period. Like, that's a very, very
Real.
distinct difference, like that,
Right.
like the Chinese medicine. So you got that, right? But outside of that, it is like, I think I'm lucky enough to work with a group of girls who loves being strong. I know that the reality out there for personal trainers that might be listening to this is that you have girls that don't want to get too bulky. Like, has not been my reality for a decade.
Yeah.
I've worked with a very smart group of girls who has been lifting weights very hard for long periods of time, and know that they don't get enormous muscles. It just makes them jump higher and get paid a ton more money when they go to their club teams. So they associate work in the weight room with getting to be a beast at their sport, not hulking muscles. I mean, it's just so I don't have to worry about that. But no, I think the differences are negligible.
Yeah,
it's really more on the site. It's really just more in the approach and the psychology, and maybe I'm more positive than I would be with guys. Maybe I can be more tough love, and it may be that could be something that I'm very. I think the athletes on my teams that I've had recently, the females, would say that I'm a guy that, like, if they're having a bad day, I'm gonna just do whatever I can to make them feel okay about it. I'm not gonna be like hey, come on, you piece of shit. Come on. You can do it. Give me that it's bad.
Get over it.
Get in there, get in that rack and just effing lift, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could do that with the guys. Like, there's a lot of guys that would respond to that. Like, I would probably like that if my coach did that. But that's never me with the female athletes. And and it could be that I'm also maybe missing the boat. I bet that I have some girls on my team that would love if I were like that, but
Yeah.
I'm not maybe nuanced enough to know.
Dude, I think you would know.
Yeah, I think it would too. I think
Yeah,
it
you know what I
works
mean?
pretty well. I
Yeah.
get some. I'm so proud of the weight room culture that I've had everywhere in the last, like with the Dutch and the Chinese and now the Germans. I think that is like my strength. Like maybe my programming isn't as good as another person's, but like I would put our effort and intensity up against anybody. Like I'm always so happy when my head coach comes by because I want him to see. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
look at what we do in here. I know that you say that on the court, like sometimes they get down and they like look at this though.
Yeah.
Like this is different. Like you think this girl is shy? Let me show you what she's like in my weight room. Like let me
Yeah.
show you what she's like on Bulgarian squat day because she's borderline obnoxious at how much she cheers when she gets off the rack. Like it's that kind of thing.
Dude. Um, to that end, and again, we're gonna continue to reiterate this. How much are we culturally consumed with numbers then versus
Mm.
because I would imagine the opposite is true too, right? Like you can go into weight rooms where like the culture just isn't there, but the numbers are great. But you know, if the culture isn't there, then this is probably why you're not getting where you want to get. Like how much
No,
of it
but
is just like
no,
fucking
Dennis Point. I mean, like honestly, I one of my good friends is Christian is was the SNC for men's cycling in the Netherlands. Now he's actually with Team Germany, and he sits at his laptop in a corner just recording. He puts on the loud music for his men's team, and he just sits in the corner just recording data. There's no hype. There's
nothing.
no gamification. Just get your work done. And his guy's Bulgarian split squat. I'm not kidding, almost 500 kilos. Like it's
Wow.
ludicrous. It's
What?
ludicrous. Like me touching the ground. Like I think it was
Jesus.
like no, it's like 480 something. Like in the kind of strength that I can't fathom. You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
and so he yeah, and so there are so many ways to skin a cat, and they win gold medals, right? So there are so many ways to do this. But I'll tell you, like you know, in this industry, and I think this is what you
I
do,
love it.
like what your latest endeavor seems to be like, kind of pointing out. I think there's a lot of ways to do this, and you
Mhm.
have to kind of find the thing that you're good at doing, and you gotta accentuate it any way you can. You can write. You gotta find ways to make up for the stuff you're not great at. Like I would be like, you know, if I were terrible at data management, I would have to buy software to do that. If you know,
Yeah.
or you have to lean on people to figure it out. But I know what I'm good at, and I'm good at creating a weight room culture. So then I have to lean on people to make sure I'm using the right exercises. And I maybe I'm not, you know, I think I'm good at warm ups, but maybe I don't know the best exercises for keeping shoulders strong. So I got to go and find all my Exos buddies that were fantastic at
Yeah.
prehabilitation, whatever, shoulder strength, and lean on them. And so yeah, I try to accentuate my positives and then really just lean on other people for the rest.
So, and it's interesting because of I don't want to say, of course, man. I was talking to my wife about this the other day because my wife was like, "Have you spoken to Rhett yet?" And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "That's yeah. I need to reach out to Rhett Larson." And out of nowhere, dude. Like, I don't. We were just talking about like people that we've spoken to, and
Yeah, yeah.
coming up with names. And she was like, "Have you had Rhett on yet?" And I was like, "No." And I think it's because she associates my time in China with you being there and like that group of people
Uh-huh.
that went early on. Um, and um, and I definitely associate you with your experience in China and
Well, yeah, I was the China guy forever. You know,
for the what felt like the long now that you're not like when I say you're not meaning like you're not there, do you
yeah,
miss it
yeah.
at all? Like because
Oh
China's
yeah.
such a unique place, man. Like I was just in Taiwan and I was like, God, it's not China, but like East Asia is so unique. Like, do you miss
There,
it?
yeah, I miss the adventure of it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm married to living as an expat, living overseas. Like, I've been ever since China. Like, it's been hard for me to get excited, even when I get job offers to come back to the United States, just because there's just a part of me that loves that, you know, a little bit of the struggle of it,
Yeah.
where every day, you know, and I'm like you, I'm a storyteller, so I just love accumulating interesting stories. I love, you know, living a place where people go to vacation, you know, on vacation and stuff. that
Yeah.
would not apply to China necessarily. But China was like, I got, I got past the part. Like, it was so hard in the first couple of years, like where every cab ride feels like, oh, it's just so mentally exhausting and you worry a lot. There's a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety about every single meal you're going to have. You
Yep.
don't, you're not getting your, no, none of the websites you're used to, your apps don't work. I've got a flip phone that is a piece of junk that just has the 7 people. Your life gets simple, but it also, days can feel really long because there's so many little parts of it that are a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
But it was like every year, that learning curve flattened out. And every year, as I got to know the language and the culture, and I got to know more athletes and have more friends in the area and stuff, it got easier, but I still had, like, I felt like I was just living this very remarkable life that was
Yeah.
full of different, I when I have a week off, and if I'm here, my options are A, B, and C. When I'm in China, it's, hey, I heard Cambodia is great. Oh, I've never been to Vietnam. Let's do that. Hey,
Yeah.
let's go to Japan. Let's see how much. Hey, can I get a friend to, at the very least, go to Hong Kong to just go crazy for a couple of days? Like, there's, and I miss that part of it.
Yeah. It's it's so crazy because I went to Taiwan. Shit, it's 3 weeks ago now, and it was my
I was
first
about to say,
trip.
you were just there.
I was just there, and it was my first time back in Asia
Mhm.
since Beijing. And
Uh-huh.
my Beijing experience um was a little different. For I don't want to say it was a little different. Like, I had a hard
Oh
time with
no,
it. I,
I know, I know.
okay.
Not you specifically.
No,
I'm
but
saying
you get it,
that whole first crew that went over there.
dude.
It's so easy now, Dennis. Like, the people that go over there now have no idea how difficult it was when it was very few expats and they hadn't figured out how to treat us and what,
Yeah.
what to expect, like how much we were able to work and how hard we were going to work while we were working, and
Yeah.
like getting that that's been figured out. And the weight rooms are beautiful, and everybody respects space. Like, I sorry to cut you off, but
No, no.
you had it, especially you paved the way for me to make it easier. And I just came 2 months after you were there, or a month after you were there.
Which is amazing to hear, and I would imagine, because I'm thinking back now, right? Like, that was like 12 years ago, 13
I
years
know.
ago. Like,
That was 2011. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I would imagine they've come a long way. But I was telling, so they're the guy that set up going to Taiwan. I was telling him, I was like, what was insane for me, whether you'll appreciate this or not, but I was trying to explain, because he was like, you really didn't like it when you were there, and I was like, dude, I'm going to try and explain this to you. I remember one weekend, I forget, maybe it's Toby. It might have been Toby.
Oh yeah, good memory on Toby. Oh
Right? I
boy, we
think
could talk Toby, by the
they're
way.
right. We could talk Toby all day long. I remember Toby being like, let's get out of Beijing. You know what I mean? Like, it's the weekend. Like, you're
Yeah,
probably tired. You want to go somewhere else. Like, just get on a train and go. And I was like, yeah,
yeah.
great idea. Because I just want out of Beijing. I just need to get out
Uh-huh.
of Beijing. And I remember we get to the train station, dude, and we're in like the lobby or whatever you want to call it, and like all the trains let out, and like a million people enter the station, and I'm just kind of looking around, and I remembered saying to myself, I'm the only black person
Oh yeah.
here.
Yep.
Right, like, there is nowhere for me to hide. Like, I don't think I've ever felt, and I've traveled, and I've never felt as, I don't know if the vulnerable is the word, but
Hmm.
I pride myself on, if I'm going somewhere, I want to learn the language, I
Yeah.
want to eat the food, I want to blend in and assimilate as
Yeah.
much as possible out of respect, and I can also like enjoy my experience a bit more if I'm there. And me
Yes.
going, there's fucking no way for me to connect. Like, I don't know the language, I can't blend in it, and I never felt as vulnerable. And I remember leaving Beijing, and the reason why I'm bringing this up as well is your your comment on like the cab ride. I remember, like, in the early days, it was like, yep, your flight is at this time, and there will be a cab outside on this corner at this time. And I remember like walking out and standing on the corner with my bags, waiting for this cab to show up, not being able to read a sign, not being able to communicate with the grab cab driver. And I remember just like the cab pulling up and like me getting in and wondering, like, am I actually going to be taken to the
Yeah.
airport? because I would have no way of knowing if I'm not.
No
You
way.
know what I mean? Like
No way
I
to
owe
check Google Maps to make sure it was kind of moving in
exactly.
the right direction.
Are we
No
going
way.
towards? Yeah. Are we going?
Yep.
No. And I remember thinking I've completely put all of my hope in that this was actually organized, and I know it was, but just the fact that I had zero control
No control
of knowing what was going on, and like I was like, that was my experience in Beijing, and it was still like pretty chaotic. Whereas not that way now. Like Taiwan was amazing, and
It's so much. Yeah, they speak, the English is more prevalent. Like it's really the language thing becomes an enormous hurdle. It
yeah,
really does. If you can't even, so I got to the point where I'm very, very good and very fluent at speaking, at my speaking to get my point across. Now, sometimes I can't understand what they say back, but at
Mandarin. You
least
mean
I
in
can,
Mandarin?
yeah, Mandarin. So at least I can get my point across. I can say what I need to say to anybody, and then I can just do my best with whatever they say back. That's the tough part.
Yeah,
But once you get that ability, life calms down.
yeah, yeah,
Like the world is so much easier, and it's so much less stressful. And then you can actually begin to look forward to these little adventures.
yeah.
And then you can have a cab ride where you have instead of this just being sitting silently in the back, stressing out about whether you're going to get there or if this guy's going to rip me off or if this guy,
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
then you get to sit in the back and you have like a 20-minute conversation with him and you end it and you're being like, oh
Awesome.
my God, I just learned all about his daughter and she loves to dance. She loves piano. And he learned that I'm a strength coach. And he told me he used to play ping pong in junior high. And I understood all of it. And that could make my week,
That's awesome.
So cab rides that used to be losses become enormous wins.
Yeah.
When it becomes almost like a game to see, all right, what can I get out of this? Like
How
it's
long
still
did it take
learning
for you to
experience.
get there? How long did it take for you
Oof.
to feel like I can have that
I
conversation?
so I was lucky because I was the manager, the project manager on that team. So I was almost always stationed in Beijing, which
Mm.
enabled me to have pretty consistent tutoring and be able to go to classes all the time. So
Mm.
the the guys on my team that God bless them would get deployed at a moment's notice. The night before they had to go to a 3 week, ping pong camp in the far reaches of Mongolia. They, like that was happening constantly. But there was a big effort to keep me in Beijing all the time to be the person that could meet with the COC and stuff like that. And that enabled me to get a lot of early tutoring, and that really helped. So almost all the time while I was in China, I was taking classes,
Oh,
and I couldn't even do Rosetta Stone. Like Rosetta Stone, I'm not good at learning on my own. I'm also not good at just like picking up languages through osmosis, just sitting around it, hearing it
yeah.
at the lunch. I'm so good at tuning out and like being in my own head, maybe OCD about the next day's session and how I'm going to make this work or whatever, or trying to figure out what curveball my team's going to throw at me if I have to be ready for a weird like endurance core session that has to like come out of nowhere. So I'm in my head about that stuff all the time. I don't have any time. I'm never listening. So I have to have, and that's the nice thing about being in China is that labor intensive stuff is cheap and I can have
Yeah.
a tutor meeting me at my apartment at 8 o'clock every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for pennies. And I know she's going to show up. So I
Yeah.
can't dodge that. I can't just blow off a Rosetta Stone thing on my laptop. So that helped me a lot.
A good friend of mine um, during COVID had me on like his podcast, and it was interesting. He asked me, he said, when you go into a new location, so you went into Cleveland and you went into Munster, and so you're going into a new, you know, culture, team, all of it. What are the things that you use, either experience, whatever, to determine whether the program is working well or not and what changes to make? Do you just
Mm-hmm.
come in and it's just, this is my program, or do you come in and say, oh, they're doing this really well, I just need to add this? Like, you've now gone to China, to the
Yeah.
Netherlands, you're in Germany. Like, is there a process where you walk in and it's like, I'm cleaning house, or you're like, no, 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 you guys are actually doing this
No,
really
no.
well, like, here's where I
I,
insert?
yeah, I don't, and I learned in China that like every time you walked into a new team in China, you remember you would walk in, and first thing we would do was be watch your existing. Let me see what you're doing in the weight room
Let me
right
see what
now,
you're
right?
doing.
All right, let's
Yeah.
see if we because it'd be great to find some commonality, and you will think I'm going to make this team so freaking good just taking out the garbage that they're doing. Oh my God, I cannot believe you're doing this exercise. I cannot believe that you're just holding planks for 5 minutes and you think that's the best thing you can possibly do for abs. And I can't believe you have chosen this stupid exercise. So, and I'm always advising, like, is that when we bring new coaches over, I'd be like, do not throw everything out. Like, if you just walk in, especially because we're working with gold medal winning teams for the most part. Like, they've put us with the gold medal factories. And if you say, I'm going to take out 70% of the exercises that got you guys 14 diving medals last Olympics,
Yeah.
like, they're going to be like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then you'll notice that you're not on the diving schedule anymore. Yeah, you've just been removed from the diving team. Like, that's how that always goes. And so, like, you endeavor to just keep a hold of anything that you think has a modicum of effectiveness, and then you start sprinkling your stuff in. And hopefully you just change as you build street cred. And in China, there was an art to it. Like, you had to, if you're going to talk about, you guys are too quad dominant and glute activation, you had to do stuff that made them sore in their glutes. You wanted them to not be able to sit on a toilet for the next 2 days, because that would ensure that you kept your job. And if you took the 3-minute plank out of their system, you better do something to crush their abs so that they can't laugh for 2 days. That is the secret of success of getting a team in China, is you put the vision in the coach's head that, oh my God, you have the weakest glutes I've ever seen. Well, obviously, what I do is make their glutes and abs, cut and paste whatever thing in there that they think is important. And but you endeavor to keep as much of their terrible stuff as you can, and then you slowly just change that ratio over time. And that's another thing, that working in China for years, I got so much street cred from being with Exos, first of all, and having that reputation, but also from being actually with Chinese teams that are like, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. Then every subsequent team I got to go to and be like, okay, now I can go in with 60% of my stuff initially, because they know we're sticking with this guy, and then 70 and then 80. By the time I got to the Chinese volleyball team, it was like, okay, not cleaning house, still going in and saying, like, what stuff in here do I love? Or not love, but what can I tolerate? And then, and what stuff, like, when I left the Chinese volleyball team, guys took over for me, and they were like, Rhett, I don't think they need to be doing so much squatting. And I was like, no. Like, that's their golden goose. Like, you just do not get rid of the squatting. You find ways to make the squatting, like, they just see that pattern. But if you make one day a squat jump day and one day a pin squat day, and you make the other day a regular squat day, and you make another day a banded squat day, but you squat every time, or you're going to lose your job. You got to see a squat. It doesn't always have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be, but it has to be a squat. So you just learn these things about teams, right? And then now with the other teams, like, now that I get English on my side, I'm always sending an email at the beginning of my time with them, being like, hey, I'm coming in, and I know you guys, I've met a lot of you guys. I have lots of experience. I have lots of opinions, but I don't have a huge ego in this. If you only feel comfortable going to war, doing BOSU squat, I don't know, something that it's like, okay, that you have to do a BOSU kettlebell goblet squat, like, in the weight room at least once a week, I also will love that exercise for you. And you're going to see it every Monday. And you can't, and you will do anything other than Bulgarians. Like, you hate them, absolutely fine. I'm not married to any one exercise. I'm not married to my ego and program. And so I try to come in real light, but that girl is doing kettlebell, BOSU, goblet squat, like goblet squats, while we're doing our little squat jump competition. And eventually she's going to be like, I think I'm just going to, I'll try it this week, and we'll see how my knee responds. And could you move the goblet thing? And yeah, great. But then we try to just get everybody, because for all of the talk, and this might be a hot take, like, for all of the talk about how great it is to individualize training, I find so much effectiveness in keeping a group together, like having the power of the competitiveness in group. So when possible, I try to keep my big rock exercises. I want everyone doing them. So if a girl's like, I'd rather do cleans than do jump squats today, like, that, fine. But, like, you're going to miss out on what is probably the really fun part of the experience here. And all things equal, if we could get you on our doing what we do, I think you're going to get more out of it.
The social dynamics will ultimately win in one way or another, right? Like either she's going to join or she's the one that's probably on her way off or out of the team at some point. Anyway, I
Right.
guess in my experience, I noticed that. Like, and I like the fact that you said the individualization, individualizing for the sake of doing it. That person usually doesn't fit with the group to begin with.
Yes.
So
So yeah, in those instances, you have a girl a girl comes to the team, usually like late, like maybe we have to bring someone in later in the season. They're like, "Hey, I've been doing this program with my old strength trainer, so what do you think?" And I'm like, "Hey, let's start you just doing that. If you're comfortable with it, let's get you doing that because I don't want to make you sore. We have a game in 3 days or whatever it is. Like, let's
right,
do that. But keep an eye on what we're doing, and let me tell you where instead of this, you could be jumping in on this, and you know, and so we're kind of twisting those dials until hopefully we get them. Now that said, absolutely, I believe in individualization.
for
Like there are
sure.
girls that have their little aches and pains, and we're
Issues,
doing 8
yeah,
exercises in a session, and of those 8 exercises, absolutely, there's going to be some one of those exercises is going to be widely varied. It'll be a position specific exercise. This will be, I don't have my defensive specialist doing shoulder, exercises. So that'd
right,
be silly. And
right.
they have to get more stuff with hip flexors and being speedy. Um, so yes, I do believe in that, but I don't believe in it entirely. Like I'm much happier about all the stuff that we do together than the individualization that we do separately.
Yeah, and I know we're probably getting into semantics, but it's like I believe in individual exercises. I don't know if I believe in individual programs.
There you go.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I
you
think
said
that's
it
the
way
way to
better
look
than I
at it.
did.
So,
Yes,
I
absolutely right.
we haven't spoken about kind of like what this whole endeavor is that I'm trying to take on, and my real passion with this particular project is about the coaches that I think are in the position you and I are in right now. We've spent 15 to 20 years hard charging, getting the experiences, and like at a place in our careers where the choices that we're making aren't just monetary because I
Yeah,
need to make the money. They may not be. They're a bit more purpose driven now.
yeah,
And I'm talking to a lot of coaches that are kind of like, man, I don't know what I want to do next, but I know I don't want to be on the floor 12 hours a day anymore. Maybe not
hmm
all year long, right? Like
right,
if I get to do it in the summer and I want to have like a really good hard charging 10 weeks, I'm cool with that. But like to
yeah,
know that the only way I'm going to get paid is to do this 12 hours a day for God knows how long. Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to see my
no,
kids. I kind of want to go on vacation. Tired of missing holidays. So, but I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to
right,
go next. Right. Like, that's a lot of where my current passion is, Rhett, is like empowering coaches with not just like with like the actual skills. Like, how do you build an online business? How do you
yeah,
engage in social media in a way that you are going to be able to monetize it at some point in time? Like skills that I don't think many of us really have. Some of us have done it really
nope,
well, like you, but
no,
like not a lot of people. Branding yourself, these things. That's where my passion is. And what I love about what you said is realizing that the landscape and the blueprint has changed. And what I mean by that is it may not be the smartest thing to buy a house these days, but
right,
that's the blueprint our parents gave us because it worked for them 30 years ago.
yeah,
So, like, recognizing that the game has changed and there are new skills that you need is where we need to go, and like disconnecting from some of these dogmas that we've kind of been taught, um acknowledging them, realizing that hey, it's all right to say that fuck man, you don't need to get stronger. Like just
yeah.
disconnecting yourself from some of these dogmas that spread across a lot of domains is what we needed to push ourselves forward. So
Yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the converted, of course,
yeah.
um, but you just gave me chills um, because I do think that coaches, like, you don't need to be someone that just pushes back for the sake of pushing back. But when you discover something about yourself, like for me, like I discovered that that I didn't think that putting more fun into things like warm-ups or whatever, I didn't think it actually detracted from like
Mm.
our performance. I actually think that 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 we can use some of that playfulness and some of that the skill acquisition that you get from me bastardizing the shit out of the rules of volleyball and creating like this crazy thing that you can actually develop a better skill library while also, and more importantly, getting the girls that are looking forward to warm up every day, that cheer when you announce what we're doing for warm up that day, like as opposed to it being this robotic, gotta floss your teeth kind of thing before you go to bed. Like, and so anyway, when it was you say that I'm good at social media, but I really left that on the table for so long. I mean, I didn't have it in China, and then when I was in the Netherlands, I got on Instagram like pretty much started a year and a half ago when the girls on my team were like, Rhett, you have posted 4 things on your social media and you have like 5,000 followers because your 4 things are kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
she's like, why aren't you videotaping what we do every day? Because no one does the warm-ups like you. No one does the weight room like you. And so like they twisted my arm last season and were like, you should start doing this. And I realized, oh my gosh, like I guess people don't do this as much. And and the fact that I've done it and I have videos of me doing it with the Chinese gold medal winning team and now with the Dutch and then with the Germans meant that, I get some street cred to say that it's not just something you do with kids, that
Right.
elite athletes can benefit from this particular style or just and just to expand people's minds. And so and this is where I'm so thankful for what you're doing is that, I can put this out there and I can embrace what it is that makes me unique is what I wanted
Yes.
to come back to. Like really think of like what I do that's a little bit different and then really embrace it and show it to the world. And then the next step is where somebody like you comes in is like how to actually monetize it. Like you get a lot of people that are interested in what you do, but I have not decided, how I do that. I just know that it's good to have a growing amount of people that care about what I do.
Dude, it's so I put out this post about like coaches having leverage and
Yeah.
it was like coaches have leverage because of their unique experiences, who they are, the way that they like infuse who they are into what they're doing and then sharing it with the world. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
so much of like just mainstream strength and conditioning education that is, I don't want to bash them, like driven by certifying bodies like the NSCA and like this is what strength and conditioning is. And like if you're not doing it that way, maybe you're not really a strength coach.
Yeah.
And what it does is it creates like this desire to either mimic or copy in order to and like losing who you are in the art of coaching.
Yeah.
Whereas like I see somebody like you that like is infusing all of who you are into it. And like you said, it's not a gimmick. Like this is upskilling and improving and like my
I,
athletes are getting better because I am in the program, you know?
I got Dennis, I got super fucking lucky that the moment I decide this is something I'm good at, people start talking about differential learning and like perception
Timing.
action and like how there's like constraints led approach to training and like the science just came and started like being like, oh yeah, oh it's because of that stuff. That's the way I do it. Like I got
But
lucky on the timing.
but dude, you were doing it. I would argue you were doing it before like it became
Yeah.
popular, right? Like I feel like you're right,
Yeah.
but like this is only new. Where again, you're working with the Chinese national team and they're fucking gold medalists. Where do you find the confidence to be like, no, we're gonna fucking do our warm up this way?
Well, I think it was born out of that. I mean, I wonder if I think it would have happened naturally. I mean, it came a little bit was born out of the fact that I'd been in a system for so long. Me getting with the Chinese team was also when I first broke from being with Exos for a lot of
yeah,
years. And then before that, I was with Velocity Sports Performance for 10 years. I was always part of a system and a system necessitates that there's consistency. And I would be the guy that would be probably cracking on my coaches if, their warm-ups didn't look like that, right? Because systems work and systems are great. But once I got out of that system and I got to really understand one sport as opposed to just having to be prepared for a lot of sports,
mm-hmm.
then I got the confidence to be able to, know the rules and then break them and say, listen, I don't think catching a frisbee is going to hurt us in volleyball. I think actually it's wonderfully chaotic and enables us to have to move in a lot of weird directions and anticipate in a way that's very volleyball specific. But it's not just the hours of volleyball that the girls on the Chinese team will be doing. It is something where they're going to be making volleyball specific movements, getting sweaty, and having huge shit ass grins on their faces,
Yeah, tons of
giggling like
fun.
school kids, running around the gym, cackling. Somebody's going to beg someone to go get a assistant coach to go get a phone so they can film them because they're having fun. And I was like, and I don't think this is far enough away from volleyball. And by the way, like to get them warm, like we're going to do a 25-minute warm up. I can make 5 minutes of that something that is fun and engaging,
Yeah,
and gets them sweaty. All I got to do is get them sweaty and put them through some ranges of motion. Like from that low bar, there's a lot of freedom to make it a more stimulating environment.
yeah,
But what you don't want is just people that can just sleepwalk through every step of your warm up because they've seen it 100 times. That's
yeah,
got to be the opposite of creating engaged athletes that you want to hit the floor.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I think it came from me having been in a system for a long time and having freedom for the first time. And then I'm also looking at myself as opposed to a Chinese, system that's very dogmatic and very structured and very the same out of what they think is necessity to make athletes great. And I saw me being the yin to their yang, right?
yeah,
Like they can be the hard ass, same as always, but I know the Chinese coaches appreciated that our strength coach keeps these girls happy. Our strength coach is a beacon of positivity and variety in an otherwise monotonous schedule. And I kind of leaned into that, and then it became just the way I did business. And it became what people knew about me. And, like when people would see us dancing during competition warm-ups, it became like, oh my God, this guy doesn't mind dancing when we're about to go to the Olympics and they do little dances right beforehand.
yeah,
We're at the Olympic Games, we're about to play the gold medal match, and these girls do the Running Man. And I was like, oh my, this guy is different. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, I've been doing Exos's pre-prescribed neural stimulation quick foot routines for so long. How is quick
yeah.
foot, like how is pogos that different from doing the Running Man,
Running
except
Man.
the Running Man gets them smiling or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Um, not to get like foo-foo, man, but leading with happiness as
mm,
like part of like a necessary prescriptive element for you, like would it be, maybe you haven't thought of it that way, but like is it like central to your thought
yeah,
in design?
it it is. And the interesting thing about that is that people would think that I am like this incredibly upbeat, super positive all the time guy, right? I am not. Like I am super introverted. Like everyone
Yeah,
know, like the girls on my team make fun of me because I will I make the girls clean up the weight room after strength training in the mornings before we go to lunch. Like, of course, we make them disciplined about doing that stuff. But I
sure.
will futz around the weight room like just spick and spanning it for the only reason that after 3 hours of training them in three different groups for an hour each in the weight room, that
Yeah,
I want to eat lunch alone. I do not want to make small talk. I do not want to have to. I don't want to have to entertain people. Like I can be entertaining. Like I have a lot of stories. I love telling stories. I love to laugh. I love to be the center of attention. I have a huge ego, right? But I need to
yeah,
shut that shit down. And I will plan my meals so that I am all alone so often. And the girls make fun of it. And I don't even lie about
yeah,
it. like I am, but that said, when I'm in the weight room, like when I am in an interaction, like I'm always trying to be positive because I know so much of sport can be negative. And the weight room is this unique environment where they should always be in something of these 8 exercises. There has to be something they're doing well that day, right? Even if
yeah,
they're having a low, like a low power day, like I can be like, hey, everybody stop for a second. I need you to watch the way Angela is doing that ab exercise because that's exactly like I want everybody to do it. And that could not even be true. But
right.
Angela needs to hear and feel like that, on this particular day. Like I know she's having a shitty day. I'm finding things that I can do to make Angela feel like she's amazing. When we have new girls on the team, like that has to join, I know they're intimidated by the culture. They're intimidated by the way it's a new weight room scene. It's all that stuff. I am just sitting there staring, waiting to find something they're doing really well and being like, dude, like do you have a K box at home? Like, you must have a K box at home, right? That's how you're so good at this freaking exercise. And like, I want them to leave feeling an inch taller, smiling, and like, I spend a lot of time thinking about how I can orchestrate that in a weight room so that everybody can have a really good day in the weight room, because they're not all good days, right?
Right.
And I don't see any reason why I have to pile on. I would like it to always be a positive weight room experience, even on their worst days.
Man, it's a couple of things. It's so funny. Like you, I'm incredibly introverted, and uh, I laugh because I ate lunch in my office by myself
Mm-hmm.
every day. And at one point, like, why are you in here? I was like, I see you guys for fucking 9 hours. I need 30 minutes to eat the food
Yeah.
that I like, maybe put on music I like, and
Yep.
just like not have to talk to you guys, man. And like, I
Yep.
need it if you want me to be able to function. Take no offense to this. I see you guys all the
Yeah.
time. You know, I like you, but I need some
Yeah.
time alone. I do.
100%.
And so,
Absolutely. I'm earbuds in like so often. Like, they know I just need this. I need to get into my own little world, get excited about like the reason I can be so high energy when I'm around them is I get to be so low energy when I'm not.
yeah,
And I can't, I'm so in awe. There's an assistant coach on my team that is that high energy constantly. And I am just awed by her. I don't know how she can do it. She's going to end up snapping at some point, but she's
yeah.
incredible. I don't have that. I can't do it.
All right. So, here comes the I guess in all of these conversations, I have only one real like I'm going to ask this one
Mm,
standard question. Uh, 3 resources. Doesn't have to be a book. Could be podcast. Could be a person. Could be whatever. Who cares? And it's not even like I want you to give me like this standard. Like, what are you like? What are three either people, whatever it is that you're like I'm excited about, or I'm interested in this, or this is a concept that like is exciting to me. Like 3 things that Rhett is like really excited about that if I was like, hey man, just tell me what you're really excited about, you'd be like, I'm really excited about this. And it could be a fucking show. I don't care what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. All right. So that's a good one. All right. So when you said book, like, I can't. The one that really put me on a trajectory that I probably read at about that time is The Power of Moments by the Heath brothers. Like, so it
Oh
is a book
yeah. Dan and
that
Shaquille.
is just about how important it is that, like, when you think back of your middle school career, you probably don't remember a whole lot, but you probably remember a couple things, like a field trip or like. And so, how do you create these moments? And I'm always thinking about how to create moments for athletes. And it really, I mean, I took just pages and pages of notes when I read this book. It was outstanding. Um, so I, gosh, that's such a great question. I wish I now I'm honestly, like, with Instagram, like, I'm late to understanding Instagram, but in the
Yeah.
information age, I seem to get so much like, I hate it when people poo-poo social media, because I get so much inspiration. People talk to me all the time about, like, Red, how can you be so creative? I'm like, oh, you kidding me? I follow like 7 Korean, PE teachers that give me half the creativity that I find, right?
Yep.
And so, like, if we're talking, like, there's a lot of inspiration that I'm getting from Instagram. I'm so late to the party. Like, it's just so kind of like weak, but as much as I endeavor to not spend time on social media, like, I think my carefully curated feed keeps
Yeah.
me pretty inspired. All right, let me think about it a little bit more.
I was gonna say, don't labor for a third because the last thing that you just said, which I think is incredible and is also like what I'm learning. And I actually just did this weekend because you're late to the party. Like I'm late to the party with Twitter, X, Instagram, all of it.
I
All of
mean, the
it.
fact that you called it Twitter first. Yeah.
Exactly. And I did that on purpose. So that I let
Yeah.
people know, yeah. But like so now X is where I'm spending a lot of my time because a lot of it is written. Like again, I'm an
Yeah.
introvert. I don't like posting video. I don't
Yeah.
like the whole concept of Instagram honestly like runs completely counter to my being. And if you actually go onto my page, all of my posts are text. None of them are like
Yeah.
videos
Right.
of me
Right.
talking. Like
And
I don't like
it's
it.
part of leaning into your strengths, though.
Exactly. But
Like,
it's working somehow,
right.
Um, but curating it like there are gems on social media, man, like you said, and like that's also what I want to have other people lean into. Like we have a lot to share with each other that is like
Mhm.
super valuable, and it doesn't have to be dead scrolling. You've got 7 PE teachers that are going to spark and inspire you to do something creative. Like that's the power of social media, that it shouldn't just be casual. There's like a lot of power there if utilized correctly, and um that's some of the stuff that I really want to help others lean into as well. Share
And
more. Yeah, go
by
ahead.
the way, as a great podcaster, you just bailed me out and you gave me time to think. And now there's one I have to share before we go because it's related but not related. And that
Perfect.
is 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 I am obsessed with a couple of people that talk about finance in a way that I think that every freaking young coach should be forced. I mean, I think that it should be a part of the Exos mentorship problems, the program. It should have been 30 minutes of somebody coming in and saying, here's what an index fund is, and here's how the stock market works, and it shouldn't be scary. And here are the advantages to owning a home, and here are the disadvantages of owning a home, and here's what taxes, whatever it is. We've signed up for a profession that typically doesn't pay a lot of money, so we have to be good at it, so we don't have to work when we're 80 years old. I have a lot. There's a lot of great coaches out there that you want to work because it's fun and you're in an amazing place and you just got a job working for the Swiss ski team, right? And you get to live in the Alps and you get to follow your dreams. That's the ideal scenario. But I love if somebody is intimidated by money, like Morgan Housel wrote a book
Beautiful.
called The Psychology of Money, and he now has a podcast where he pretty much goes through every bit of the psychology of money, and he's written another book since then. But start with Morgan Housel's podcast if you like audio, and if you love books, The Psychology of Money. I don't. It's the best-selling finance book of the last 10 years. So I'm not going on a limb here, but get and it's so readable. It is not. It's just stories. It is stories that you'll want to tell at a dinner party of like how easy it is to not be dumb with money, and to be a little bit more savvy. So that is that's absolutely an obsession of mine, is kind of that side of finance and investing and stuff like that.
Dude, I'm so happy you said it. One of the things that I was so there are two projects that are going on. This one, which is, and when I say this one, Automated Strength Coach, the website.
Yeah.
There are kind of two main arms to it, which one is like low hanging fruit S&C. This is what I've learned.
Yeah.
25 to 35-year-olds. Here's a system you can follow that I used. 35 to 45-year-olds. All right, we've got a family. We're probably edging towards burnout. Like you said, money, finance, all this stuff. How do we now navigate the next 20 years of our life? Because I'm 44 and I've got at least another 20, 25 years of working,
Yeah.
and of which, like you just said, the thought of having to do that on the floor 12 hours a day is terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So that's one piece. And the money piece, like you said, not I also think we are terribly bad at talking about money in general, but S&C coaches are even worse at it,
Oh,
because there's this
worse. It's like,
altruism to being a strength
yes.
coach where it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about how much you should pay me or how much I'm worth. Like I do this for my athletes. And it's like,
Oh,
fuck off, man. Like you
yeah.
should be able to say what you're worth and negotiate it. And you don't, because you don't have the skills. Like
Mm-hmm.
I took jobs where I literally walked in and they said, here's your contract. And like, I didn't negotiate. And I
Nope.
was like, my God, because I didn't have the skill set to be
Right.
able to say, I'm going to negotiate a little more than this because I know
Yep.
what I'm worth. And like, I just didn't. And I feel like it's so needed in our
Yes.
industry. And like, I
It's so
just,
accepted in other industries. It's so annoying that you could get labeled as somebody who only cares about the money when you're negotiating your contract. Yeah, I care about the money. I care about eating, and I care about like having a yeah,
yeah,
like I care about being able to take a vacation. Like I care about you should care about me being happy, like
right.
uh
Right. No,
yeah,
man.
it
So
is. We have it backwards, and it's yeah, I mean, it's something BB also is obsessed with. Like Brett will just can't stand like that you have to, when you go speak somewhere, it's just a given, it'll be for free to kind of get your name out there. Oh, no, 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 like
Yeah. No,
We're worth
dude.
something. Like if you like, yeah, and that's honestly, hopefully that's something that can come from building a following on social media that you can show, hey, people want to hear what I say, and it's not just me saying that I'm good. Like I have something that people want to hear, and you should pay for me to say it in front of the people that you bring to your conference.
If you think it's valuable, then you'll be happy paying for it.
Right
And that
there it is.
value will give back to you. So like why does this have to be weird? And like monetizing and like I said, building like I want more coaches to have the mindset that they are a brand and that they are a business. And here are the skills. And like, yes, big part of that comes with you being really fucking good at what you do.
Right.
So be an expert, be excellent, but then don't be fucking shy to say I'm excellent and you
Right.
are gonna pay me for it. You know what I mean? And so dude, yeah, I love that you included that on your own because that's like I said, there's a separate project that I'm working on with another friend of mine that is like targeted at young minority coaches, and we'll hop off here in a sec, dude. And that's when he was like, "What do you want to talk about?" I was like, "I want to talk about that finance 101, negotiating 101, money 101. You're a coach. I don't want to talk to you about sets and reps. I want to talk to you about how you're going to make money for the rest of your life because I see
Yeah.
too many coaches get crushed by that
Mm-hmm.
they don't make money. They work their ass off, but they don't make money. They don't know how to invest it. They don't know how
The
to
the relationships
monetize.
fall apart. Yep.
Exactly. All of it. And it's like, we cannot talk about being a coach without talking about this. And you
Yeah.
need the tools. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, as always, you piggybacked off it and made a much better point than I think I made at the beginning. Well done, Dennis.
Dude, that's 90 minutes, man. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but uh I loved this, man. Like I it's funny, like I said, my wife asked me if I'd spoken to you, and I think it's because she knew when I saw you last time. I was like, I saw Rhett, and we talk we talk about connections that I've made, and you're definitely in there as one of the people that inspire me and always have, man. So
I
I
mean,
appreciate you.
and it's like I was on cloud nine after seeing you because I honestly, I looked up to you and like seeing Daryl yesterday. You guys, I mean, you were the strength guy, right? And like I thought, like, and the fact that you would still remember my name was
Oh,
a
give me a
big deal to
break,
me then, and the fact you
dude.
asked me to do this is a huge honor now because, I hold you guys in just the highest regard. Like I'm still in awe of what you guys have done for the industry.
I appreciate you, brother.